What's an injury you sustained and lied about how it actually happened because it was too embarrassing? Black eye bar fight, which was not entirely a lie, 70% truth. A girlfriend was the culprit. We romped around once in a while back when we were teenagers. This time, she came running towards me and finished it off with a flying ambush. While I was sitting on a sofa, totally unaware of what was flying towards me, her boob hit me right in my eye socket. We joked about it a lot after, her and her iron boob. But among fellow men, the story was bar fight. Story 31. Yes, finally, somewhere I can tell this story. So I was seeing a girl for some time. She was an athlete and could ride me like a horse in the bedroom. Seriously, she could handle me in the sack tenfold. Anyway, one night after she returned from practice, she came back horny as hell. I was 18 at the time and I never turned her down. We went at it in the bedroom. She was riding me like Seabiscuit when all of a sudden she moved up to high and her tailbone landed on my cock like a effing hammer. The pain was simply awful. There was a fair bit of blood coming from my member. Anyway, it turns out she cut my frenulum or banjo string. After 2 months, it fully healed, mainly because I was 18 and would still have sex through the pain, which didn't allow it to heal correctly. As a result, I had a pretty thick scar. This is still there now. Obviously, I don't want to tell my new partners why my dick is deformed, so I tend to tell them I got kicked in my balls whilst playing rugby, and that was the result. The funny thing is, any new partners who I've told this story to actually have been more turned on by the fact I have a scar. So technically, the incident turned out to be a godsend. P.S. Reddit, oh why do I feel the need to share crap with you guys? Because it didn't happen, that's why. There's no way that this story is real. Guy's just trying to seem cool to people he doesn't know on Reddit. Moving on. Story 32. Every summer, my college friends and I get together and play a few drunken rounds of disc golf, and then head home and grill out / go out for dinner / get drinks or do whatever we feel like. Well, we finish our rounds and we all head back to my place. I have 2 showers and there were maybe 10 of us. The plan was to shower up, then go out for dinner and drinks. Being that most of us used to live together and play college athletics together, team showers were a thing. Now, we wanted to save time, so we went 3 guys in the shower in my bathroom. No homo. We had a system. The guy in front would use the water to rinse off. The back 2 could lather up and drink shower beer. Then the first person would rotate to the back, putting their junk facing the shower wall, and we'd be butt to butt. I was finished rinsing off and went to rotate to the back. Was very drunk and didn't use the wall side of the shower. I realized this a few seconds in rotating back. I panic and then fall out of the shower, hitting my chin on the rim of the toilet, busting my chin. After collecting myself and turning around, I'm face to dick with 2 naked guys who tell me I'm bleeding everywhere. A sober friend drives me to the ER where the nurse asks how I managed to split open half my chin. I told her I was dancing to crappy techno music in the shower and slipped. Couldn't bring myself to tell the truth, and I was dick to butt with 2 of my friends and then got a face full of ween. Probably a good idea to keep this one under wraps. Take it to the grave even. You don't need to share these details. I'm surprised you shared this on Reddit, but definitely don't need to tell the nurse or anyone that you know IRL. Good move. Story 33. I jumped off a deck into a deep snowbank and blew my ankle up. I was in my 30s at the time, which required surgery with a plate and a bunch of screws to fix. Broke like 4 different bones. This was right at the beginning of a week-long vacation. I usually tell people I did it at the mountain, and they assume I just went off some sweet jump on my snowboard. Story 34. This one is really dumb because it was not embarrassing at all, but I still lied about how I got hurt. I was playing street hockey with a friend. He didn't know I was behind him and accidentally took a slap shot with my face. I got a wicked bruise and a fat lip. When I went to school the next day and people asked what happened, I said I got hit playing baseball. For some reason, I was embarrassed about street hockey injuries, but A-okay with baseball injuries. Story 35. The morning after the first time I spent the night with my now husband, he made egg burritos for us for breakfast. We started fooling around after eating, and he hadn't washed his hands thoroughly enough to get the habanero off apparently. After a couple days of being in absolute misery in my vaginal area, I broke down and called my mom asking for the doctor's number. I was 22. My mother offered to make the appointment for me and asked what was wrong. Instead of telling her I had slept with a stupid dude who injured my vagina in the worst way and I need to get a full STD screening while I'm at it, I told her I had a yeast infection. I had to wait 2 weeks for the appointment. I get to the check-in with the nurse, and as soon as she says yeast infection, I started crying. telling her what actually happened, why I lied, and she tells me not to worry, while trying to keep professional and not laughing. They did what they do and gave me a cream for my chemical burn and an antibiotic for a UTI. I get home, my mom sees my prescription cream, instantly freaks out and asks me what the heck happened. I come clean. She laughs hysterically. The moment my dad walks in the door, she tells him. They both laugh hysterically. Nearly 10 years later, any chance they get, they bring it up and laugh hysterically. I should have just stuck with the lie. Story 36. I'm a professional female in my mid-20s. I got completely wasted one weekend. I blacked out, tripped, and fell right on my face. I broke my arm, had skinned knees and elbows, and a few cuts on my face. I showed up to work the following Monday, cut to crap and with a cast. I told everyone I was trying to learn how to skateboard. This was the point I realized I needed to get my drinking under control. Story 37. LPT to everyone here. You can lie about this to all your friends and family, but never lie about an injury to your healthcare provider. Please let them know exactly how it happened, as some of the details may be important. We won't judge you, as we've likely heard things way worse or more embarrassing. And even if we are impressed by your story, we can't share it due to privacy laws. You're covered. So I was actually going to say this exact thing at the end of the video, but since Story 37 here already covered it, absolutely. Endorsed, co-signed, don't lie to your healthcare provider. It could literally be the difference between getting something treated and making it infinitely worse. So, as humiliating as it might be, we all do stupid crap, have done stupid crap, and will continue to do stupid crap. No one's going to judge you, and even if they do, your healthcare provider still has a job to do. They may laugh in your face, but you're going to get the care that you need. So, don't do anything stupider than the stupid thing that got you in that situation in the first place. See what I'm saying? Story 38. The story. Beaten up by two dudes outside a nightclub, losing my front teeth and messing up my nose. Reality? Smashed my face into the ice at Mach 1 while trying to impress a cute girl at an ice rink, after having lied and said I played for an ice hockey team. My best friend knows, because he was there at the time, but he once overheard me telling people it was a brawl outside a nightclub and just looked over smiling. Bro for so. Story 39. This is going to get missed, but I feel like I have to post this on behalf of my friend. He worked as a welder part-time during high school. He cut off a piece of metal and wasn't sure it was still hot. I don't know why he needed to know how hot it was. He picked it up with his gloves and decided to test how hot it was with his face. He told everyone it was a splash of oil from cooking bacon. Story 40. One time, my friend invited me to play with airsoft guns, but my parents didn't want me to play with airsoft guns because they're dangerous. So I said I was going biking, but instead I went to my friend's house. Long story short, he shot me in the head up close, and I had a noticeable red mark in my head. I tried sneaking back into my house without my parents knowing about my injury, but I got caught anyways, and my parents asked me what happened, and I said I fell off my bike, and they believed it. I should have listened to my parents. Story 41. I was drunk and giving my boyfriend head when I went to lean back on my hand and switch positions, and I broke my thumb joint. I thought I just sprained it, so I kept going. The next morning, I wake up and it hurt so bad I was crying. So I went to urgent care, and they asked if I was being abused at home because this type of injury is mostly seen from bending someone's thumb too far back. I told the doctor the truth of what happened, and she brought two of her nurses with her as they sat there looking at me in disbelief. To this day, everyone else that I ran into thinks I broke my thumb by falling and trying to catch myself, but my close friends and family know the truth. Story 22. I was like 3, 4, maybe 4. Anyways, I was hyped up chasing my grandma's cat around her house. Anyways, the cat took a sharp turn and I ran straight into the wall and busted my head open. It was my parents' wedding anniversary, and my grandma couldn't get a hold of them, so she took me to the ER and I got stitches. I'm really surprised my big-ass head didn't break the wall. I have a scar on my forehead by my eyebrow. I tell people I defeated Lord Voldemort. Story 43. Sprained my ankle doing the limbo once. But right now I have a huge gash down my arm, palm shredded, hip torn up, black eye, concussion. I'm 24 and tried to teach myself to ride a bicycle. Hit the gutter and went right over the handlebars. Told my coworker that I'm just clumsy and didn't go into detail. Story 44. When I was in kindergarten, I broke my elbow doing something I had been told to stop doing repeatedly. I was running around a large cement planter/bench, and at every corner, I would put my hand on the bench and pivot my body around the turn and run to the next corner. Teachers kept coming over and telling me to stop, but for whatever reason, I just kept doing it. ended up breaking my elbow on one of the turns and couldn't admit that it was from doing what I had been told over and over again to stop doing. Immediately after sustaining the injury, I went over to the monkey bars, laid on the ground beneath them, and began to scream. To this day, everyone thinks I broke my arm falling off the monkey bars. Story 45. As a small child, I ran crying and screaming into the living room where my parents were entertaining guests with my thumb sliced open. I said I fell on the pencil case their kids had brought and landed on the pencil sharpener. They believed me because it was one of those metal ones that had two different size holes, and not an enclosed plastic one like I usually had. What actually happened was that I saw the pencil sharpener had two holes, one for large pencils, and wondered if my thumb would fit. It did, so I tried to sharpen it. Story 46. I got really sick for a couple of days in the summer. I didn't want to tell anyone that I ate a whole mini watermelon by myself in a couple hours and effed myself over, so I just said I caught a bug. I'm also lactose intolerant, and whenever I have to stay home because I ruined my stomach from drinking ungodly amounts of milk, I just say I got super sick and vomited. I mean, I didn't lie, but I don't want people to think I enjoy the suffering from consuming milk. Story 47. Severed the extensor tendon in my thumb by punching through a mirror when then-girlfriend accused me of crap and I got angry. The official story, instead, was I was wrestling a friend and slipped, fully aware it was not believable. Wrecked the ever-loving F out of my hand, and obviously my thumb had to be repaired. Took 2 surgeries and a couple years of rehab to get full use back. It still hurts frequently and will lock backwards if I press on something. Constant reminder of the angrier issues I had to conquer. Story 48. My traumatic brain injury. For 2 years I maintained that it was caused by a fall on the stairs. It was actually caused by a solid punch to the face, cracking my head against a brick wall, all during a violent essay overseas, Mallorca, Spain. My parents knew that I was attacked there because I awkwardly and numbly gave them scant details via Skype, insisting that they not make eye contact with me and that they not ask for details. But I was too ashamed to admit how bad it really was, in more ways than one. I kept up the "oops, I hit the stairs" lie for a couple years, but eventually, with the TBI acting up and my anxiety steadily worsening, I eventually came clean about it. So I cried for a solid hour when I finally explained to my parents and friend what really happened. That was last year, and as embarrassing as it was, as much as I hated having to explain, I got through it. Sadly, there was no way to honestly explain the circumstances behind my head injury without at least mentioning some details of the essay, which, though mentioned without any graphic details, was still understandably difficult for them to hear and almost physically painful for me to say. But it was also an immense relief just getting that off my chest. I remember thinking how strange it was that I could actually breathe properly again after I came clean about what happened. The pressure and anxiety had been strangling me. Story 49. I was helping a friend move and they asked me to take some old chairs out to the dumpster. Well, me and 2 guys get the chairs down there and decide they should be broken up before they're thrown out. So we smash them up a bit and one of us gets the bright idea to all grab pieces and sword fight each other. I grabbed the seat as a shield and a leg to hit with, and it was all great fun until I didn't see a hit coming. Didn't block and was rewarded with a nasty black eye and cut up eyebrow. Told everyone that I had tripped and fallen into something. Story 50. When I was 15, I had a huge crush on a girl. Called to her online and said I was coming over to her house at midnight and she said okay. How I failed to realize I was golden, I'll regret forever. Just before I got to her back door, I punched myself in the face a bunch until my nose was bleeding and let it run down my face and onto my shirt. When she came outside, she freaked out. I told her I was okay. I got jumped walking to her house, in the suburbs, at midnight, in an almost crime-free city of 200,000. Story 51. When I was about 8, there was a razor lying on the bathroom counter. My stupid 8-year-old self looked at it and thought, hey, why don't I try to shave my arm? Anyway, I grabbed the razor and it slipped out of my hand and cut my finger. Badly. There was blood everywhere and I was freaking out. There was no way in hell I was telling my mom I used the razor, so I came up with a brilliant plan. I turned the water from the shower on and got in the shower, and then proceeded to cry until my mom walked in and asked what happened. I explained that while turning on the shower, the shower handle cut me and I started bleeding. My mom cleaned up my finger and said that she would fix the shower handle so that this didn't happen again. I was very proud of myself knowing that I got away with it. Joke's on me though, because a year later, my mom revealed to me that she knew what had happened the entire time and didn't say anything. I also still have a scar on my thumb from the razor. Let's be totally honest here, a lot of these stories that we've read so far and will continue to read throughout the duration of this video of people thinking that they pulled one over on their parents. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Your parents know, and oftentimes they don't say anything because they chalk it up to you just being a dumb young kid. It's harmless, right? But it's also funny that some of these people, even in their adult years, think that they managed to successfully hide something from their parents. Not that they didn't. Some probably do. Most, I promise you, do not. Story 52. I suffered from depression and used a blade to make a single cut on the inside of my thigh. I wasn't a compulsive cutter like the things you see on websites such as Tumblr, but something about going over that one cut every time it healed made me feel better, or at least made me feel something. To anyone who noticed, I lied saying I accidentally cut myself while shaving. I was embarrassed of how mentally drained and lost I was. Now that I went through therapy and turned my life around, I wish I could help anyone who hurts themselves like this, or worse, to do the same. Story 53. I sprained my ankle and chipped the bone slightly quite recently. I told everyone it was sustained whilst training Muay Thai. It wasn't. It was a few hours later when I stood up too fast after taking a crap and my leg had gone dead. Rolled over on my ankle, face on the floor, arse in the air, jeans around my ankles, and I let out a pathetic little whimper to top it all off. Story 54. When I was in high school, I was a competitive gymnast and was basically a walking injury. One time I was in the shower and for the love of me, I can't remember why I was reaching out and leaning on the towel rack installed on the wall. Well, the rack broke and I fell over the edge of the shower, except the shower had sliding glass doors and a metal track on the edge of the tub. Left me with a bruise that covered 70% of my thigh while I had to wear my uniform skirt to school. Told all the kids I fell off a beam doing an aerial. They were impressed. Story 55. Terrible nosebleed. Acted like it was spontaneous. Truth was, I was cleaning my pet bird's cage and I slipped on the little rug in front of my dresser and my face went straight for the bird cage. The door of the cage was open and those little hooks that are used to secure the door closed, one of them went up my nose. Deep. It hurt quite a lot, and my nose bled like a stuck pig. I told my parents I didn't know why it just started bleeding like that. I was about 10 years old at the time. Story 56. I was in college. A group of us went up to the roof of the apartment. Most of them went over to smoke some weed, and I was wandering around in the dark while I was drunk. I found a big divider and climbed over it. It was dark, and I couldn't see anything, but I could feel there were a stone pathway. I started jumping around and sprained my ankle. I told most of my family I heard it jumping around playing Wii bowling, although I think the made-up excuse is more ridiculous than what really happened. Story 57. I wasn't actually the one doing the lying. In my senior year of high school, I got a black eye in gym when we were playing Knockout. It's a basketball game where people get in a line and two people try to shoot at the same time to knock each other out. The kid I was playing against went to shoot as I bent down to get my ball and he elbowed me right in the face by accident. I went to the nurse. It looked way worse than it was, but the nurse freaked out and made my mom pick me up, so I missed 8th and 9th period. The next day, I walked into my 8th period class, AP Psychology, and before I could say anything, my teacher saw me and addressed the class. So Janice is nice here was walking home yesterday when he saw a little girl getting attacked by a gang of thugs and he fought all of them off and saved her life, but got this black eye during the fight. Let's all give him a round of applause. And everyone clapped. My friend whispered to me, "Whoa, really?" And I was like, "No, of course not." And he got all disappointed. Dude, why wouldn't you own this? Like, your teacher's trying to do you a solid and hook you up with an awesome backstory and you're denying it? You want everyone to know that you got accidentally elbowed in gym class playing Knockout? No, come on. You saved a little girl from a mob and all you have to show for it is a black eye. But those guys, oh, they look so much worse than you. Am I right? Come on, that's so cool. Story 58. Well, about 3 weeks ago, I didn't make my right turn wide enough and hit a concrete construction barrier and effed up the right side of my car. I went to pick up some food and called in, and the guy ringing me up, making small talk, asked, "How's your day?" I replied with, "Oh, not that great." "Oh no, what's wrong?" I figured this was a conversation at this point, and I said, "Well, my car is damaged." "That sucks. Was it a hit and run?" Yeah. Story 59. 59. I stabbed myself through the foot as a child. There was a bunch of ice on the ground and internet wasn't around yet, so my sister and I were breaking it with a dirt tiller and a pickaxe for fun. While going on a rampage, I wasn't looking and one of the spikes went straight through my shoe and through my foot. I usually cried about everything, but for this, I went silent and tried to walk inside as casually as possible. I took off my shoe to check what I had done alone when I saw a bloody circle on my sock. For some reason, the only thought going through my mind was, oh boy, I'm going to be in so much trouble if somebody finds out about this. So I turned my sock around, went outside, and didn't tell anyone what I had done for about 3 years. Story 60. My cat scratched my dickhead. I forgot to take clothes with me in the bathroom for my after shower. I go into my room and start getting clothes out of the top of my dresser, and I guess he thought my dick was a dangling toy. The pain was like nothing I could describe. I'm just glad I didn't have a girlfriend or anything at the time. Explaining a scab on your dick and blaming your cat isn't the most realistic excuse. Yeah, gonna resist the urge to make a pussy joke there, dealing with the cat on his dick. Moving on. Story 61. Tore my frenulum during sex with my first girlfriend. Something seemed wrong, so we turned the lights on and there was quite a lot of blood everywhere. Stood up to take a tissue in the kitchen, but 16-year-old me wasn't ready for this situation, and I passed out, banging my head against the edge of the sink. Had a black eye for the next couple of days. I can't remember what I told most people, but it sure as hell wasn't the whole story. Haha. Some people in my close circle know, though. Story 62. Not sure if I covered it up, but I got a severe concussion from hitting a bong. Went outside in the winter to cough it out. Blacked out and hit my head on a concrete paver. It was a snow day in Georgia. I told my folks I slipped on ice while throwing the football. Before cell phones, I called my friends for like 12 hours after getting out of the hospital. So what happened? Did we hide the weed? Rinse, repeat. Story 63. Oh goodness. I have TMJ. I got it because I was hanging out with a guy I liked, and he opened a soda can using his teeth. I tried to do it too, really more out of curiosity than anything. Now I have chronic discomfort in my jaw, and it pops every time I open it. I also can't chew gum anymore. I tell everyone I got it from orthodontic treatment. Story 64. A couple of weeks back, I cut my thumb right open. It was straight to the bone. It was horrible. I told everyone that I was cutting a lime at 4 in the morning because I was craving sparkling water with lime and salt, and I cut the lime wrong, and that's how it happened. In reality, I cut the lime fine, but as I was squirting it into my glass, I dropped the whole lime in. My half-asleep 4 a.m. mind thought, let me stab this lime with this knife. So I grabbed the glass with my hand, angle it towards me, and I stab the lime. The whole glass flies off my hand, and the edge of the knife slices my thumb right open. I only told my girlfriend how it actually happened, and she debated our relationship for a good while before she decided to continue it. Story 65. I got a boxer's fracture in high school. Have 7 screws and a plate in my right hand, and a pretty gnarly scar. My knuckles also don't look quite right. I tell people I broke it falling off my bike. In reality, it was at our high school's lock-in for graduation. All the high school seniors were stuck in the high school to tire us out the weekend of graduation in an attempt to keep us safe so no one gets out, gets drunk, and dies in a car accident the night before graduation. Happened a few times at my school. There was food, events, movies in some classrooms, etc. Even a mechanical bull in a blow-up pit. There was a smaller workout room where they had a drunk driving activity. There is an adult-sized tricycle and a pair of drunk driving glasses that simulates what visual plane you'd see if you were drunk. I made it one time around the quarter-mile track and went to take the bike back to the main door. Well, I got thrown by the glasses and ran clear into the corner of the brick wall. Because my hand was around the handlebars of the bike, my hand just got destroyed. Apparently, it was in such an intense spiral fracture that my hand surgeon had to consult several studies on hand surgery prior to my surgery. Story 66. I've been hiding a disgusting black eye with a huge red blood spot in the left side of the white in my eyeball. I told my boss I tripped down some stairs. What actually happened was I sucked down a near lethal amount of nitrous outside of a Trey Anastasio concert and hit the pavement. Story 67. Technically related to question, sorry if not. 2 weeks ago, my left thumb got bit by a horse. I was giving him treats, and just like a squirrel that gets its tail run over, I didn't know my thumb was in his mouth. The next day, I had a wedding to go to. I didn't tell anyone. I'm naturally clumsy, so the thought of coming up with a different reason for telling them at all was not happening. My mom and the owners of the horse were the only people that knew. My mom cracked a joke a few days later when I was about to go back over to the barn. "Don't stick your finger in the horse's mouth." My reply was, "It wasn't my finger though." Story 68. I had a laparoscopic appendectomy in 2007, and they used medical glue to suture the incisions. I was discharged and sent home. My then GF was staying with me, dotting on me, taking care of me. I was told to not do any vigorous exercise or anything requiring lifting for 4 to 6 weeks. She was a wonderful GF at the time, and well decided that I should have enjoyment in bed during my recovery. One thing led to another, and we got it on. We were a little rougher than I should have been, and it popped 2 of the glue sutures. We had to go to the ER again and tell the on-call doc that my wounds opened up again while stretching, getting my cardio up. They re-glued them and told me to avoid strenuous activity. The ER nurse saw my GF all concerned, and I bet the nurse knew. Story 69. When I was pretty young, we were all at my grandma's house for a get-together. My cousins and I were racing around on little ride-on cars, those classic ones that you have to propel with your feet, and I fell over the front and landed. Split leg on the handle. I immediately dropped and started crying, having been what I recall as my first family jewel injury. My whole family, aunts, uncles, grandparents, parents, rushed over to my aid and asked where I was hurt. Although I was a sniffing mess at the time, I was also too embarrassed to tell the whole family that I crunched my balls, so I just told them I hurt my stomach. Cue the next 10 minutes of my grandma holding ice on my stomach, asking if it was feeling any better. Story 70. On a weekend I was about to start a new job, I had woken up early with a hangover and was planning to smoke to help me relax to get back to bed. I was being extra lazy, so I was sitting on the bed and leaned over and twisted to pick up my bong from the opposite side of my nightstand because getting up was too hard for some reason. I happened to cough at that exact moment unexpectedly and heard a loud pop in my back. Turned out I had just torn a ligament in my lower spine. Couldn't move for the rest of the day. I already have back problems, so it doesn't surprise me that my back muscles are that weak, not able to handle a cough, but it was still extremely pathetic. I told my friends the real reason so they could laugh at my expense, and at work I think I was lifting something heavy or something simple like that. Luckily, the sprain wasn't that bad and I got to sit for most of my first week, but I was panicking at first since I was in so much pain. Lesson learned. Don't be too lazy to get up, and don't twist your torso when unnecessary. Story 71. When I was in first grade, I stuck a bean in my ear. Class was really boring, and we'd been using beans, probably for some math exercise, so I was just fiddling around with them. Stuck the bean in, tried to get it out, couldn't reach it. It hurt a lot, so I went to the nurse and feigned ignorance. Nurse used the ear thingy to look into my ear. IDK why she didn't see the bean and decided it was an ear infection. My mom picked me up and took me to an ear, nose, and throat specialist. A fact I only found out some 20 years later when I visited an ENT last week and recognized the chair. Naturally, they noticed pretty much immediately that there was something stuck in my ear. They struggled to figure out how to get it out, and the nurse had the idea to use the irrigation machine and use water pressure to force it out. Worked like a charm. My mom says I claimed I didn't tell her because I didn't want to get in trouble, but I distinctly remember being embarrassed at my stupidity. Story 72. Was trying to take off my eye makeup, but there wasn't any makeup remover left. So my mom told me to use baby oil. I looked in the bathroom and grabbed the first bottle that I saw the words baby oil on. I squirt some onto a cotton ball and it comes out as a cream, not a liquid. This should have been a red flag, but I slapped the cotton ball in my eye and rubbed it in. It didn't feel right, so I look at the bottle and it says Nair with a picture of legs on it. I don't know how I missed it, but my eye ended up being red and swollen. I was just glad my eyelashes didn't fall out. I ended up telling my family that the dog had kicked me while jumping, which was, to this day, the worst lie I've ever told. They still believe, though. Story 73. Playing hockey. Opposing team scored when I was on the ice, and I was pissed, so naturally I punched the glass. As soon as I did, I felt my hand tighten up. The next day, my whole hand was bruised, and I was embarrassed, so I sucked it up and said it happened from a body check. Didn't miss any games. That summer, I went to the doctor for another injury and got the doctor to look at my hand because there's a weird bump now. He gave me a weird look and said I had definitely broken my knuckle. Story 74. I had a pretty nice black eye for my first day of college. Told everyone I got punched. What really happened was we were partying at my buddy's house. He had a stripper pole and I was trying to demonstrate my incredible upper body strength by holding myself upside down on the pole. Turns out I don't have incredible upper body strength. I slipped off the pole from about 3 feet up and face planted into concrete and knocked myself out. Story 75. IDK if this was true, high school rumors, but a kid in my high school told his friends that he separated his kneecap from falling down. I was on the track team with his sister, and I vividly remember the sister telling us that that was bullcrap and that he had gotten caught jacking it by his parents. When the parents came into his room, he tried to violently turn to not be seen, while closing his computer and smashed his knee into the desk he was sitting at. Supposedly, his parents came in and saw him screaming on the ground with a hard-on and his kneecap off his knee. Story 76. For starters, happy cake day. This happened to a friend of mine, though a group of us were involved, so we all had to get the story straight. We were playing mailbox baseball in some of the nicer neighborhoods. We had all taken a turn and were just being obnoxious as could be when our less than athletic friend was up to bat. He totally missed the first mailbox and almost fell out of the car window. The next one he hit, though he did knock the box off the post. He was complaining that the bat had vibrated his arm. I knew what he was talking about, that numbing electric shock that goes all up your arm when you hit the ball wrong. So we said, just choke up a little bit, not really thinking that we should stop now. A couple houses down the dark road, we see a good opportunity and tell him to get ready. So I guess he was not ready and didn't know what choke up meant, because when he hit the box, the bat rebounded back into his head and hit the car. He curled up holding the side of his head. We got him to show us and there was blood coming out of his ear and running down the side of his head. After a few ooh, ah, and F's, we went to his place and told his mom that we had stopped at the Taco Bell on the reservation and was jumped by some Indian kids to explain why he was covered in blood and why there was a dent in the car door. Story 77. I fractured my toe because I was running into the kitchen trying not to get caught eating in the living room and fell up one stair. Like many parents, mine did not like my sister and I eating on the couch. Well, one day, my sister and I are chillin' watching TV, eating ice cream out of the carton since we got home from school early. Now, usually my parents get home at 4. Not this day. So we're watching TV and I hear a doorknob jingle, and I mute the TV and go, "You hear that?" Now, me being so young, I really couldn't imagine my parents being home so early. Breaking routines doesn't make sense to a middle schooler. Well, this day they did. So my sister, being the genius she is, hides the ice cream next to the couch out of view. But my dumbass is eating my mom's favorite ice cream. It needs to be returned. So I sprint from the couch to the fridge, slam my toe into the front of the only effing stair connecting the living room to the kitchen, fall, and drop ice cream all over the floor. Somehow, my mom ends up dropping her keys or something that gives me enough time to lazily clean the floor with the nearest rag and return the ice cream. I swear, all of this happened in like 20 seconds because I do not know how she did not catch me. I ended up having football practice later. I was limping everywhere for at least a month or two. My mom asked me what happened and I told her I hurt my toe at practice. The season had just started. She never believed that I hurt my toe either, and that I was just faking, but that's fine, as long as she knows I wasn't eating in her living room. Story 78. When I was 11 or so, I slipped off the back of my bike going really fast and landed on the back tire squarely on my crotch. It was summer and I was in shorts. It was the worst road rash ever. It's like putting your nuts in a belt sander. I waddled my way home in pain, down the busy sidewalk. While I was cleaning my road rash, my mom found my underwear on the laundry pile, which, from the accident, was slightly bloody. I was immediately sat down and given the whole "your body is changing" talk, silently waiting to tell my mom that it was an injury, but also not wanting to embarrass my mom for giving the talk prematurely. Story 79. My friends and I used to be obsessed with medieval fencing, which is a rich term to use for what we were doing. One day, we'd gathered enough steel to run a 4-man bout. Predictably, someone was hurt. It was me. So we drove to the hospital and I checked in with a flashy cut in my hand that needed 8 stitches. Mr. Doctor, Professor Dad, so happens to have a running feud with our hospital. So when I told him I had my hand cut by a knife in our sink, he was flat out dejected by my going to our hospital and didn't think to examine the lie. So I was close to losing my left thumb to a sword wielded by my best friend. Didn't hurt too bad, but felt some emotional distance from my dad, and he still doesn't know. Story 80. When I was about 15, I was dared to punch a pole for $50. I have no idea why I took the dare. I guess I thought it was an easy $50. I proceeded to punch the pole. It didn't really hurt too much. Later in the day, it started to swell pretty bad with major throbbing, and I was worried I broke it, so I had to tell my parents how it happened. Of course I lied, because I was truly embarrassed and scared how they would react. I said I was running from a friend and fell on my hand, which my parents believed, but my brother was there when I took the bet, and he told them the truth, which made me really angry. I had terrible anger management at that age, so I punched a door in my house with my other hand. What a huge mistake that was, lol. Same thing started to happen to that hand. My parents took me to PCP, and he told me I had broken my metacarpal bone in both hands. I ended up with both hands in a cast for about 6 weeks. It makes me cringe when I look back on it. Such an embarrassing moment in my life. Trying to lie about the situation made everything worse. How do you even function with both hands in a cast like that? Like, how do you wipe yourself? How do you put clothes on? I mean, I guess you probably need assistance, but man, that sounds miserable. Goodness. Story 81. In the 5th grade, I went to science camp, and I guess my toenails were too long because I kicked a boy I liked, and my nail on my big toe broke, and my sock became a bloody mess, and the teachers were shocked and needed to know how it happened, and I said I kicked a pile of snow, not knowing it was a rock covered in snow. So then I get home from camp and my mom takes me to the doctor thinking I fractured it, and the doctor couldn't really tell based on the x-ray, so he said, "What the hell, just put her in one of those stupid space boots, just in case there is a fracture I can't see." So yeah, story 82. My friend and I were playing Soul Calibur 3 and he kept beating me doing some cheesy BS, and I got so mad I punched the wall. Immediately felt searing hot pain in my pinky, and it was bent to the side, but not broken. Panicked and concealed the injury until I could find a better way to pass it off. 2 days later at football practice, I was at the bottom of a pile with the football in my now bum pinky hand and decided to take my chances. Yelled real loud in pain and said the football had been jammed down into my pinky and hurt it real bad. Coach took one look at my crooked pinky and called my parents to take me to the doctor. Turns out, when I punched the wall, I had torn the tendons in my pinky and needed surgery to correct it. After the surgery was done, the doctor said there was more scar tissue than they expected and asked if I might have injured my hand before the football practice. Lied through my teeth and got away with it, although I still can't bend my pinky finger past a certain point. Story 83. I needed to tie up an overflowing garbage bag. The top of the trash bag just had paper towels and bags, so I decided it was safe to be a dumbass as I started rapidly punching the bag to push it down. Moments later, I punch a glass jar and a shard digs into my middle finger, revealing my tendon. Had to get stitches. I tell everyone that I simply went to push down on a garbage bag and that there was a glass shard sitting at the top of the bag. Story 84. In high school marching band, the color guard for this particular show was armed with sabers, but during practice, one of them went to the wrong set, did the wrong work, and was 5 steps behind. The wrong place she ended up was about a foot in front of me, too, and to the right. The wrong work she ended up doing was turning and doing an uppercut with the saber in a large circle, ending with it going upwards. I'm standing still with my feet a foot apart, and she hit me in the balls. She didn't just hit me in the balls, she lifted me an inch off the ground, popped one of them like a effing balloon, put a scar along the shaft, and even bruised and fractured my pelvis. I still marched the rest of the show before falling down on my knees and screaming so loud I puked. I don't tell the band just how bad the injury was in fear of having another nickname. I don't quite have the same libido I used to, and the get well soon cards were hilarious. Years later, though, when I get laid, I insist I once had cancer. Only the marching band may know the truth. In case you were wondering, it absolutely makes you last longer. It also makes you gayer. Since losing a ball, I've developed an interest in men and became bi. That I don't tell people, though I haven't actually been with a man yet.